Hey, what is up everybody? Thomas Brandon here, and flying solo in this video because I wanted to show you guys my build that I finally got done. I'm calling it, my bike's name is Jezebel. I'll get into that later, but it is my 2000 YZ125, and I just finished all of my conversions on it. And so I wanted to do a video on this because there's not a lot of information about this, these old steel frame conversions in video form. There's a lot of information on like forums and on websites, but a lot of that stuff is wrong or just misguided. So I wanted to do this that way. If any of you guys are wanting to do conversion yourself, I'm going to give you all the resources that I used, what definitely helped me, and the best way, in my opinion, to do it. Because if you're going to do this, it can be really costly really fast if you're not careful. All right, so let's dive in. Okay, so first up, you can see the bones here of what I got, and that was a 2010 YZ250F. I got that for $200, the complete bike minus the motor. And that is something really important to note. If you're gonna do this, you need to understand that it's gonna either A, cost you a lot of money, or B, you've got to find an outrageous deal like I found, where you can get an entire bike minus the motor for 200 bucks. And then understand you're still gonna have to put $500 to $700 into it, because once you buy something like that, you got to freshen it all up. You can't just throw it on the bike. So first up, the swing arm. This is the swing arm off the 2010. Rear shock, rear brakes, and rear wheel. All of that is off the 2010. On the front end, those are the front forks, triple clamps, front brakes, and front wheel. We also got the front number plate and front fender. Okay, those are all off the 2010. Now, doing the swing arm here, what you want to do, what I found was the best way to do it, was to use the swing arm and the linkage, the pull rod and the knuckle. You can use the pull rod and knuckle off of your steel frame, but that changes the ratio. Always remember, these shocks, even if you're going to revalve them, but the shocks, the swing arm, all of this stuff, these measurements all go together. And when you start talking about linkage ratios and you know, things like that, which is how much the wheel moves compared to the shock and things like that, those numbers matter. You don't just start slapping parts together. Initially, I had done that. And then when I did some more research and started looking at how much it's going to affect the spring rate and how hard it could be to, I'm going to have to completely revalve it and do all these different things, I didn't want to do that. So what I did to make the linkage work, because the problem is that you have different size bolts and bushings, okay? So I needed to be able to use the bolt from the 2000 YZ and get it to work with the new linkage. The bolt on the 2000 is actually a bigger diameter than the YZF. So what I did was I had a bushing. This is the bushing from the 2000 YZ, but I had a bushing like this machined to fit the mounts on the frame and the linkage off the 2010. So basically the outside diameter I think had to be 16 millimeters, and then the inside diameter needed to fit the 2000 bolt, which was, I can't remember what it is, I want to say 14 or 13 millimeters, something, whatever it is. And we made one. Luckily, I have a friend who owns a machine shop, and it took him 5 minutes to do. If you have a machine shop near you, they could probably whip one up for you for, I would say, $100, maybe less. And make sure that they use a good hard quality steel, something like chrome moly, something that is good. Don't just use any old piece of metal, because that is an important part, right? The factories use hardened steel. Okay, so that's how we got the linkage and everything done. I did change the spring. That spring is for my weight, and luckily the forks came with springs that were for my weight as well, so I didn't have to respring the front. But that shock is my spring. I redid the shock myself, took it all apart, you know, serviced it, you know, replaced everything inside of it, and the new seal head, all that stuff like that, and it works freaking awesome. It works awesome. Another thing back here is the brakes. These bolt right up. This master cylinder bolts right up. There's nothing that you need to change or do. But if you're going to want to run these brakes, you're going to have to run that swing arm, and the new swing arm, because the new brakes will not bolt up to your old swing arm. They've got a different bracket, different mount, everything. So even though they bolt right up, you got to use a swing arm. This swing arm bolts right up. In fact, it uses the exact same. If you order a swing arm kit, like the bearings, the bushings, all stuff like that, you can take that thing and you can stick it in the swing arm off a 2000 YZ125. You can stick it into the swing arm off a 2010 YZ250F. They're exactly the same. They are interchangeable. So the swing arm bolts right up. All the mounting points are the same. Chain lines up. Everything lines up. I've already ridden this thing at the track. I did 3 motos with it already. So it definitely passes the test. Okay, now on to the front end. And this is the big thing that everybody obviously talks about or wants to do, and that is the SS fork conversion. A couple of things that you need to note, and I'll put a link up, or I'll put a picture of it up, and then the link up in this video. There was a forum post that I found. I can't remember exactly. I've got it bookmarked in my phone, so I'll have to get it. But it's on like Vital or whatever, and somebody went through and basically broke down all of the steering stems for the 4-strokes and the 2-strokes, for the 125s, 250s, and 450s, the lengths and the sizes. So from, I want to say it's like 20 up to like 2014 on the 250Fs, they use the same stem as the 125s. This off of the 2010 literally dropped right in, bolted right up. The bearings, the stem, everything was exactly the same. So that was really nice. And triple clamps bolted right up. One thing that people always talk about is the steering stops. My stop, if you look right here, you could see that it could be bigger, but for me it was like, dude, that's fine, that's good enough. I don't care if I'm gonna rip off the stop, whatever. So yes, I should have probably done that bigger, but I was in such a rush and it hit, and I was like, that's fine, I'm just gonna leave it. So that's the one thing that needs to be updated, and probably this off season I will update it. Now the forks, I redid all of those myself. One thing to note, if you do pick up old forks, when I say old, I mean like 06 to, I want to say it's like 2016. They are known for their free pistons basically just blowing into pieces. Going into it, I had already bought some new Zeta free pistons to replace them, and good thing I did. When I took them apart, both free pistons were destroyed. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to get these, just know, unless you are buying ones that have already been done, you're going to have to replace those pistons, because dude, if they've been used in any type of moto, they're probably blown. Okay, brakes, they bolt right up. That's the front wheel. The front axle on this, or this front wheel, is actually interchangeable with the YZ. The rear wheel, not so much, but the front wheel is interchangeable. I want to say up to like 2008, the rear wheel is interchangeable, and then after that, it's different. It's got a different size axle, bearings are different, all that stuff like that. So there is some stuff that can interchange, but there's also stuff that doesn't interchange. Okay, and that's the thing that you really got to pay attention to, because it's very easy to get stuff, right? You buy some forks, you buy some triple clamps, and then all of a sudden you go to put it on and it's like, damn, dude, I got to do a bunch of work. I need new bearings, new races, new, you know, all that type of stuff. So if you are going to do this, make sure you hold on to your old stuff. So if you have to press the stem out, put it into the new triple clamps, you can do that, you know, things of that nature. All right, now let's get down to the most important question, which is this worth it? And that is something that's going to depend on each person individually. Okay, for me, I got a great deal on a complete bike minus the motor, which I didn't want the motor. I can now sell the parts that I had, you know, on my bike, you know, my stock 2000 stuff was all redone and all, you know, was like basically new, all refreshed, good to go. I can sell that stuff. I can sell the swing arm, I can sell the shock and the forks and stuff like that and get some of my money back. Or I can just keep it and put this to stock and sell the bike and, you know, keep this stuff, whatever I want to do. But if I were to buy this stuff and then do it, keep in mind the shock, right? If you want to put the old, if I wanted to put that shock on my old swing arm, it can be done. But now you're getting into, like I said before, different linkage ratios, you know, gonna need to revalve it, all those types of things. I didn't have to revalve this shock. I didn't have to revalve the forks. All right, when I put these on here this last weekend at the track, the bike felt incredible. It worked so good. I did not, like, I overjumped. I put it through the ringer like on purpose, and the bike felt incredible. It felt so much better than what it felt like before. And like I said, I had all that stuff done by a professional. So the, you know, my open cartridge stuff and the shock, I had it done by a pro, and it still was not great. Now when I'm doing it like trail riding, off-road stuff, that open cartridge stuff feels amazing. This though is so much better on the track. Now I still spent, if you factor the $200 for the other bike and then the cost to refresh everything, because I had to get new linkage bearings, new, you know, I had to buy all the rebuild kit for that. I had to get the rebuild kit for the swing arm. I had to get new wheel bearings and seals. I had to buy a new front number plate and front fender and shroud guards, because, or fork guards, because obviously this stuff off my 2000 YZ is not going to fit a 2010. You know, all of those things added up. You know, the bushings, the fork seals, there's new steel head, and all the, you know, the fork oil, the shock oil, all of that stuff to redo it. I'm about $800 in total if you count the bike. That bike was 200 bucks. I'm gonna be completely honest. The only reason I did this was because I found a bike for $200. It came across, it had only been listed on Facebook Marketplace for like an hour. I hit them up. It was like one of those acts of God. And I hit them up and was like, I'll take it. I'll be there with the cash in hand. And there was already people hitting them up after me wanting to do the same thing. So, I mean, if you can find a bike, a donor bike that, you know, meets the criteria, it could be worth it. But if you try going online and buying these parts, I had parts like this in my cart on eBay for months, and I have not pulled the trigger because it was going to be like $600 just for the triple clamps, the forks, the shock, you know, like just for that. And then I was going to have to do the refresh and the mods and everything like that. So this was the best way of doing it, in my opinion. It is the cheapest way to do it, even though it's still going to cost you some money. And the thing that gets overlooked the most, that I don't think people talk about enough when it comes to these old two-strokes, is the brakes. The difference in the brakes on this bike now compared to what it was is insane. I mean, although these brakes basically look the same as what was on a 2000 YZ, they're not. And they worked so much better. The front brake and the rear brake worked so much better than what I had on my bike. It was a game changer. In fact, it took me about 2 motos this last weekend to get them dialed in, especially my rear brake, getting it adjusted to where, you know, where it felt good and where I liked it. But once I did my 3rd moto, dude, it was incredible. And to be able to do, you know, to have the braking to where I could do more like linear style braking instead of just having to go in and then grab a handful and a footful of brake with the old ones, because they just don't even want to stop. Yeah, I mean, they don't want to stop in comparison to these things just work so much better. So that was probably the biggest improvement. The suspension is obviously amazing, but with the brakes, that's what really set it off for me, was the brakes. So yes, it's not perfect. It's I called it a functional rebuild. I just cleaned everything up, you know, serviced everything, and it works and runs amazing, and I could not be happier for what I've got right now. All right, you guys, so that's gonna do it. I just wanted to cover this with you guys just because, like I said, there's not a lot of videos that talk about it, and there are some, you know, posts out there, but a lot of people want visual stuff, and being able to, you know, do the swing arm, the front end, the forks, the shock, all that stuff like that, being able to actually do it, have it all work, and it work really, really well, was huge. And so I just wanted to share it with you guys, because for one, we need to get some more content up on the channel. We had a death in the family in the last couple weeks, and things, holidays, Little League, baseball, we just had so much going on, so it's been crazy. But now that we're done with all that, finally start getting to the track consistently. That's why I've got the bike out right now. I'm loading it up. I'm going to be, after I'm done working today, I'm going to head to the track, try to get a couple motos in. So yeah, and yeah, so thank you very much for joining me. I hope this helps you. If you guys have any questions about this stuff, like I said, I'm going to post and put as much info as I can down below. But if you have any questions about it, you can leave a comment down below. I will try to look at some of them. And then also there's a Facebook group on Facebook that's like steel framed YZs. Go to that group. There's a lot of people on there that can answer questions for you, that are really smart and that are cool. Most people you ask questions, they're douchebags. Most of them are pretty cool. So if you need questions answered about that, good place to look. All right, so you guys, that'll do it. Thank you very much for joining me, and as always, take care.